A homeless girl accused of witchcraft by her own village. Cast out for a gift she never asked for. But when she looked a desperate billionaire in the eye and made him an impossible promise, everything changed forever. Marcus Wellington had everything money could buy. Private jets, mansions in 3 countries, a business empire worth billions. But none of it mattered as he pushed his wife's wheelchair through the park, watching other couples walk hand in hand. Zara had been paralyzed for 3 years after the accident. The best doctors in Switzerland, specialists from Japan, miracle treatments in Germany. Nothing worked. Then a ragged little girl appeared on the pathway ahead of them. Dirty brown dress, bare feet, eyes that seemed too old for her face. Most people would cross the street. Marcus almost did. But something about her stillness made him stop. "Sir," she said quietly, "I can make your wife walk again." The words hit him like lightning. Zara gasped from her wheelchair. Security guards stepped forward, but Marcus raised his hand. This wasn't possible. Yet something in the child's voice made his heart race with hope he'd buried months ago. Was she crazy, or was this the miracle they'd prayed for? Marcus Wellington hadn't always been desperate. 3 years ago, he was the man who solved problems, who bought solutions, who never accepted defeat. Then came the night that changed everything. Sarah's car accident. The call at 2 a.m., racing to the hospital. The doctor's words, "The damage to her spinal cord is extensive. She may never walk again." Since then, Marcus had become a different man. He'd flown Zara to Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, the best neurological centers in the world. He'd spent $12 million on experimental treatments. Stem cell therapy in Switzerland. Robotic exoskeletons from Japan. Each time, hope followed by crushing disappointment. "I can't live like this," Zara had whispered last month, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not living, Marcus. I'm just existing." Those words haunted him. His empire meant nothing if he couldn't save the woman he loved. He'd give every penny, every company, every building he owned just to see her take one step. Now, standing in this park, facing a homeless child who claimed she could do what science couldn't, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in months, desperate enough to believe in the impossible. 8-year-old Zara had learned to fear her own hands. They brought healing, but the world called it witchcraft. The memory still burned. 5-year-old Zara touching her dying grandmother's chest, watching the old woman's labored breathing ease into peaceful sleep. "Miracle," the family whispered. But when words spread, whispers became accusations. "She's not normal," neighbors hissed. Children don't heal like that. The final moment replayed in her mind like a nightmare. Standing in the village center, surrounded by angry faces. Her aunt's voice cutting through the chaos. She healed Mrs. Kemi, and now the woman speaks of strange dreams. The child has cursed her. Stones flew. One caught her shoulder, spinning her around. Another grazed her forehead, blood trickling down her face. "Witch child," they screamed. "Evil spirit." Her own uncle, who'd once carried her on his shoulders, pointed a trembling finger. "Get out, demon. Take your dark magic before you curse us all." That night, 8-year-old Zara had walked into the darkness alone, carrying nothing but the clothes on her back and a gift she'd never asked for. Now, standing in this park, she touched the faded scar on her forehead. Today felt different. Today, she'd proved them all wrong. The night before, Zara had the dream again. She saw herself in a green park, sunlight filtering through leaves, facing a man in a black suit. Beside him, a beautiful woman sat in a wheelchair, hope and desperation warring in her eyes. In the dream, Zara walked forward fearlessly. "I can help her," she said. The man fell to his knees, tears streaming. "Please," he begged. "I'll give you anything." But when Zara spoke her price, his face went white with shock. She'd been having these visions since the healing gift awakened. They always came true, showing her who needed help before she met them. The village called them devil dreams. But Zara knew better. They were instructions, roadmaps to the people she was meant to heal. This morning, she'd woken on a park bench, her stomach cramping with hunger. A jogger had dropped a water bottle, and when Zara picked it up, the vision flashed again. stronger, clearer. She was close. Following her instincts, she'd walked deeper into the park, past joggers and dog walkers until she spotted them. The man in the black suit, exactly as she'd seen. The woman in the wheelchair, beautiful but broken. Her heart pounded. This was it. The moment that would change everything. "You're serious," Marcus said, studying the child's face. There was no smile, no hint of deception. Just quiet certainty that made his skin crawl and his heart soar simultaneously. Zara reached for his hand. "Marcus, what if she's insane?" he whispered back. "What if this is some elaborate scam?" But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't. The girl's eyes held something he recognized. The same desperate determination he'd carried for 3 years. She wasn't playing games. "I know you don't believe me," Zara said softly. "Rich people never do. They think money can buy everything, but some things can't be purchased." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "Then what do you want?" "Name your price." The girl tilted her head, studying him with those ancient eyes. "You really want to know?" "Yes, your wife will walk. But my price isn't money." She paused, and Marcus felt the world shift beneath his feet. "My price is your voice," Zara gasped. "What does that mean?" Zara looked directly at Marcus. "When I heal her, you'll tell the world the truth about me. That I'm not a witch. That I'm not evil. That gifts like mine come from love, not darkness." Marcus stared at her. All his billions, and she wanted something he'd never thought to offer. "You want me to stake my reputation on a child I just met?" Marcus asked, his business instincts warring with his desperation. "I want you to stake your reputation on the truth," Zara replied calmly. "After I heal your wife," Zara wheeled herself closer. "How do we know you can really do it?" Instead of answering, Zara looked around the park until she spotted what she was looking for. An elderly man sat on a bench nearby, clearly in pain, rubbing his arthritic hands. "Watch," she said simply. Before Marcus could stop her, Zara walked over to the old man. "Sir, your hands hurt, don't they?" The man looked surprised. "Yes, child, arthritis. Had it for 20 years, eat I?" Zara extended her small hands. The man glanced at Marcus and Zara, confused but curious. "I suppose." Zara placed her hands gently over his gnarled fingers. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the old man's eyes widened in shock. "The pain. It's gone." He flexed his fingers, moving them freely for the first time in years. "How did you—" But Zara was already walking back to Marcus and Zara, leaving the old man staring at his healed hands in wonder. "Now do you believe?" she asked. Marcus felt his world tilting. "That's impossible. So was building your empire from nothing," Zara replied. "But you did it anyway." Zara gripped her wheelchair arms, knuckles white with tension. "If you can really heal me, why do you need his voice? Why can't you just do it and walk away?" Zara's young face carried the weight of years beyond her age. "Because I'm tired of running. Tired of being called evil for helping people. Every village I've been to, every person I've healed, they end up fearing me instead of thanking me." She looked directly at Marcus. "But you're different. You have power. When you speak, the world listens. If you tell them I'm not a witch, maybe other children like me won't have to sleep in gutters." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. His empire was built on calculated risks, but this could destroy everything he'd worked for. What would his board think? His investors? If this failed, he'd be the billionaire who believed in fairy tales. But then he looked at Zara, trapped in that chair, and the calculations didn't matter anymore. "There are others like you?" Zara asked gently. "Hidden everywhere." Zara nodded, her voice carrying years of loneliness. "I've spent 3 years believing I was cursed. Every night, I wondered why God gave me hands that heal if the world would only hate me for using them." Marcus closed his eyes, the weight of decision crushing him. He'd built fortunes on his reputation. One word from him moved markets. But what good was influence if he couldn't use it for something that mattered? "And if I refuse?" he asked quietly. "Then your wife stays in that wheelchair forever," Zara said without malice. "Because trust works both ways, Mr. Wellington. I won't heal her just to have you call me a fake afterward." The park seemed to hold its breath. Joggers passed by, unaware they were witnessing a moment that would change multiple lives forever. Zara looked up at her husband, seeing the internal war playing out across his features. "Marcus," she whispered, "what do we have to lose?" "Everything," he replied hoarsely. "My credibility, my business relationships, your wife's happiness?" Zara interrupted gently, "Because that's what you're really choosing between. Your reputation or her freedom." Marcus thought about the empty wheelchair that would sit in their bedroom tonight. The pool Zara couldn't swim in. The stairs she couldn't climb. The simple act of dancing they'd never share again. He thought about board meetings where his opinion carried weight, media interviews that reached millions, charity events where his endorsement could change minds. Most of all, he thought about Sarah's words from last month. "I'm not living, Marcus. I'm just existing." "If I agree," he said slowly, "and you can't heal her, then you lose nothing," Zara said. "Because I won't ask for payment unless I deliver." Zara reached for Marcus's hand. "Sweetheart, look at what she just did to that man's arthritis. This is real." Marcus stared into Zara's eyes, searching for deception and finding only hope. Finally, he nodded. "Deal, but I need to see the miracle first." "Of course," Zara smiled for the first time. "Miracles require witnesses." "How does this work?" Zara asked, her voice trembling with anticipation and fear. Zara knelt beside the wheelchair, her small hands hovering over Sarah's legs. "I need to touch the place where the break happened." "Where your spine was damaged?" Marcus watched, hardly breathing, as his wife lifted her shirt slightly, exposing the surgical scar on her lower back. 3 years of seeing that mark, that permanent reminder of the night their lives shattered. "This might feel warm," Zara warned, placing her palms gently against Sarah's spine. At first, nothing happened. Marcus counted heartbeats, watching his wife's face for any sign of change. Then Zara gasped. "I feel tingling, like electricity, but warm." A soft humming filled the air, like tuning forks resonating in harmony. The warmth spread outward from Zara's touch, not just to Zara, but washing over Marcus, making his skin tingle with inexplicable comfort. The air itself seemed to shimmer around them, as if reality was bending to accommodate something impossible. Sarah's breathing deepened, and color flooded back into her pale cheeks. "The nerves are remembering," Zara whispered, and Marcus could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Healing always drained her, but this time felt different. Heavier, more significant. This wasn't just mending broken tissue. This was proving to herself that her gift could be a blessing, not a curse. As the humming intensified, Marcus felt something shift in the air around them, like reality itself was being rewritten. Other park visitors stopped not just to stare, but because an inexplicable sense of peace had settled over them, making them forget their hurries and worries. Sarah's legs began to tremble, not with weakness but with awakening. Tears streamed down her face as sensation she hadn't felt in 3 years flooded back. "Marcus," she breathed, "I can feel my feet. I can feel everything." "Try to stand," Zara said, stepping back, the golden light fading from her hands. Zara looked terrified. 3 years of being told she'd never walk again. 3 years of accepting limitations. Now, faced with the possibility of freedom, she hesitated. "What if it doesn't work?" She whispered. "What if it does?" Marcus countered, moving to her side. Slowly, Zara placed her hands on the wheelchair armrests. Marcus held his breath as she pushed herself up. Her legs shook, muscles remembering their purpose after years of silence. She stood. For the first time in 3 years, Zara Wellington stood on her own 2 feet. The small crowd that had gathered gasped collectively. Someone started crying. A jogger stopped mid-stride, mouth open in shock. "I'm standing," Zara laughed through her tears. "Marcus, I'm actually standing." But she wasn't done. Tentatively, she lifted her right foot and took a step forward. Then another. Then another. She was walking. Marcus fell to his knees, overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't name. 3 years of specialists, of experimental treatments, of crushing disappointments, and a homeless child had accomplished what medical science could not. Zara watched quietly, exhaustion evident in her young face. Healing always took something from her, but seeing Sarah walk made it worthwhile. "Now," she said softly to Marcus, "you owe me a voice." As Sarah took her first steps in 3 years, walking in small circles around her abandoned wheelchair, Marcus understood the full weight of what he'd agreed to. A crowd had formed, phones recording, whispers spreading like wildfire. "Sir, is this real?" a journalist who'd been jogging asked, clearly recognizing Marcus. "Did this child actually heal your wife?" This was it. The moment of truth. Marcus could lie, claim it was staged, and protect his reputation among the skeptics who would call him crazy. Instead, he stood tall and spoke clearly. "Yes, this 8-year-old girl accomplished what every doctor in the world told me was impossible." The journalist's eyes widened. "Marcus Wellington, are you saying you believe in... what would you call this?" "I'd call it a gift," Marcus said, putting his hand on Zara's shoulder. "And I'd call her a healer, not a witch." Zara looked up at him with tears in her eyes. These were the first kind words an adult had spoken about her abilities in years. "This child has spent her life being called evil for helping people," Marcus continued, his voice carrying across the growing crowd. "But what I've witnessed today isn't evil. It's miraculous." Sarah walked over, steady now, and knelt beside Zara. "Thank you," she whispered, pulling the girl into a gentle hug. "You gave me my life back." For the first time since leaving her village, Zara felt something she'd almost forgotten: acceptance. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in a television studio, facing cameras that would broadcast his words to millions. Beside him sat Zara, no longer in ragged clothes but dressed in a simple blue dress, her hair neat, her eyes bright. "People are calling it the miracle in the park," the host said. "Marcus Wellington, one of the world's wealthiest men, claims this young girl healed his wife's paralysis with nothing but her touch." "I don't claim it," Marcus said calmly. "I witnessed it. My wife, Sarah, is walking today because of Zara's gift." The host turned to Zara. "Young lady, what would you say to people who call you a witch?" Zara looked directly into the camera, her voice steady and clear. "I'd say they're afraid of things they don't understand. But love isn't scary. Healing isn't evil. And helping people shouldn't make you an outcast." Marcus smiled proudly. In 3 weeks, his announcement had sparked global conversations about gifts that couldn't be explained by science. Other children with similar abilities had come forward, no longer afraid to hide. "What's next for you both?" the host asked. "We're opening a foundation," Marcus announced. "The Zara Foundation is dedicated to protecting and nurturing children with extraordinary abilities. Because the world needs more healers, not fewer." As the interview ended and the cameras stopped rolling, Zara looked up at Marcus. "Thank you for keeping your promise." "Thank you," he replied, "for showing me that some miracles are worth believing in." Outside, Sarah waited in their car. Not a wheelchair, but a car she'd driven herself to the studio. Some prices, Marcus had learned, were worth paying. Zara walked to the window, pressing her small palm against the cool glass. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't see suspicious stares or frightened faces. She saw acceptance. "I used to think my gift was a punishment," she whispered to Marcus, "that God made me different as some kind of test. But maybe he was just waiting for the right person to help me show the world what healing really looks like." Marcus knelt beside her. "And maybe I needed to learn that true power isn't what you can buy. It's what you're willing to stand up for. And some gifts were worth defending, no matter what the world might say." Have you ever been misunderstood for a gift you possess? Or felt like an outcast for being different? Share your story in the comments below. We read every single one and love hearing from those who've walked similar paths. If this story moved you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a reminder that miracles are still possible. And make sure you're subscribed to notifications on because we have another powerful story dropping this week that will absolutely blow your mind. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most extraordinary gifts come in the most unexpected packages.